Hello everyone, this is Fantastic Worlds, welcoming you back to Lovecraft Country and the Cultist Simulator lores and tricks. This is where we combine both the game play and the game lore. Now, of course, as I promised, this is the ritual section, which means it's going to be going over the spells, so to speak, of Cultist Simulator. In fact, what you can actually do with your magical lore, tools, followers, and other debris that you pick up along the game to create magical effects. Now, of course, last episode we went to the rites. This explains how to do them. This is where we do the rituals. There's what you do with them, what combinations of which aspects used in which manner will create the magical effects that you are hopefully looking for without, those pesky side effects. Okay, so the most common form of rituals in the game are summonings. These are rituals that summon and bind a spirit to your service. Now, the aspects required for this vary. You're going to need 3 of them, and one of them is required to be knock. This is because when you are summoning a being from another reality into our reality, you have to create a door or a wound between the worlds to do so. Remember, all wounds are doors, according to knock lore. Now, usually you only need about 2 knock for a basic spirit and 5 knock for a name emanation. Now, with a single exception, the ritual must have an aspect to constrain the spirit when they arrive. This is kind of because most spirits do not appreciate being yanked out of their native reality to serve some, evolved monkey. So, the aspect to keep them under control is usually edge, and this represents the ability to create boundaries, in this case probably the summoning circle or another summoning construct that the caster creates. So like knock, you probably won't need more than 5 for this aspect. Also, edge is not the only constraining aspect. There will be others. We'll go over them as we go over the individual rituals. Many spirits have special abilities listed on their card. Let's go over what they do. Phyrexian. If I speak with this one about my health, it can offer protection against disease. Phyrexian is fairly easy to understand. If you use the talk verb with a spirit with a health card, it will give you a stave execution card that will prevent you from dying for that card's duration if you run out of health cards. Considering the other ways to prevent this fate, aka not starving to death, this is not a method that is often necessary, but is available if you're down to a single health and worry you'll die if a sickness card hits you at the wrong moment before you can breed another health. Lamp of Loss. If I speak to this one, I could offer it my passion. Now, this one's a bit of a devil's bargain. By talking with a spirit with Lamp of Loss, with the passion card, it will convert the passion card into decrepitude card and grant you a level 6 moth lore card. Considering how common moth lore is, there isn't really a point to doing this unless you're looking to convert passion to health by using the magical means of curing the decrepitude back to a health card, as described later. If you're thinking about that, I suggest the next attribute is a better alternative. Pressure of Thoughts. If I speak with this one, I could offer it my reason. This one does a similar effect, but it converts a reason card to a decrepitude card and grants a level 6 knock lore card. Since knock lore is even easier to get than moth lore in the game, is really little effect to this unless you are choosing to sacrifice reason for health in the same roundabout way. Since passion is more essential in the game, this is the better devil's bargain. This is essential in the priest run as you require more than the 5 health you can get by conventional means to win the game. Summoning a spirit isn't guaranteed to succeed. With a single exception, being bound to the service of a mortal is undesirable for a spirit, and they will fight to escape control. If that happens, you'll be given a limited opportunity to try and reassert control by adding a passion card, which doesn't always work, about a 90% success rate, or a reason card to banish it back, which always works. I recommend adding the reason card for the guaranteed effect. An uncontrolled spirit can kill or follow or destroy one of your attribute cards, but it's your choice if you want to live dangerously. So let's go over what happens when you lose control. The Devourer and the Deceiver option. Devour. If this breaks free, it may assault you or consume your follower. A spirit with a Devour keyword isn't a subtle one. If it gets free, it will try and kill someone with a 50-50 chance that it's you or someone else. If it goes after you, the unbound spirit will grab a health card. If it goes for somebody else, then it'll grab a random mortal card. This can be a follower, can be a patron, can even be a hunter. So, small chance of it removing another problem. Whether the spirit succeeds or not depends on the value of their Devourer rating. If it's below 10, then the success rate is 70%. If it's 10 or higher, then chance is 100%. That's all they're going to work. If the spirit succeeds in attacking you, then it turns your health card into an injury card. Since you can remedy this with a vitality or funds card, this is pretty mild. But if it succeeds in attacking another mortal, then the captured mortal will be converted into a human corpse, which can be more significantly an issue, depending on who you've lost. Regardless of failure or success, a notary card and a 2-point influence appropriate to the spirit will also be generated. Deceiver. If this breaks free, it may try to drive you or your followers to insanity. Deceiver spirits are far more subtle, and as the description says, will try to drive you mad. They will grab a reason card and have a 70% chance to simply destroy it. Whether they succeed or not, they will also generate a notoriety. The neighborhood tends to notice crazed spirits roaming around and causing trouble. Well, normally. So let's go over the wide range of spirits you can summon. The Voiceless Dead. Requirements: Knock 2, Winter 4, Heart 2. These are the dead who do not descend or ascend, but who remain in the mansis and dream of winter. The power of winter, along with a little of Heart's warmth, will draw them here. Sometimes the dead enter the mansis by the white door. At its threshold, they lay down their power of speech forever. Call them back into the world, and they will have no voice, but their skins of dust are yours to command. Now, the spirit has an aspect of 6 winter and 6 moth, the attributes of Deceiver 6 and Lamp of Loss. Okay, almost all souls that do not ascend to immortality or fall into the nothing will become a voiceless dead. You'll encounter these spirits when you enter the white door of the mansis, which is essentially the underworld of the game. Given their low cost to summon, the usefulness of both winter and moth aspects for dealing with Suppression Bureau and expeditions, they're not a bad choice for an early game strategy. Now be careful, after 180 seconds, as with all winter-based summons, it will spawn a 2-point winter influence, which will decay into a dread card. Raw Prophet. Grail for the Raw Prophet source, and a little moth for its chaos addiction. Sometimes it divides, sometimes it unites, sometimes she whispers words of warning, sometimes he advises on appetite. Its prophecies are confusion, their whispers confound. Yeah, kind of gender fluid here. Requirements: Knock 2, Grail 6, and Moth 2. Aspects are Moth 8 and Grail 8. Now the attributes are Deceiver 8, Phylaxian, and Thresher of Thoughts. Okay, a Raw Prophet is a creature of pure chaos and desire. If you look at the Mansis map, you're going to see Raw Prophets at the edge of the wood, just at the end at the edge of the primal chaos nothing, where the two essentially meet. Raw prophets likely represent beings that are in a state before the glory came into being and gave solid form to all things. As such, they have no fixed form and are not bound by linear time. The latter quality gives them their name, as their description indicates that they speak words of warning to their summoner, indicating they may be used to provide information of future events. Now, raw prophets are an easy summon in the game, given how common level 2 moth influences are. Fleeting reminiscence, fascination, even a buzzing in the brain influence from dreaming of the wood will do. They're good for eliminating evidence and as disposable minions for about half the challenges found in expeditions. You can even use them to seduce watchers or Mr. Alden, which either means the prophets can take human form, which I believe they can, or the target has some unusual desires. After 180 seconds, the prophet will decay into a 2-point Grail influence, which will decay harmlessly. This makes summoning one a quick way to dispose of unwanted fascination cards. Caligine. Forge for the smoky spirit summoning, alliteration appeal. Winter for its binding, it must know who will rule it. At the corners of the forge, in the bounds of the mansis, the glorious fire meets baser elements. Here is a cunning vapor to infect your enemy's dreams. Requirements: Knock 2, Winter 2, Forge 6. Aspects: Forge 8, Moth 8. Attributes: Deceiver 8. Caligine, which Italian for smog or fog, is what is called a base emanation of the Forge of Days, a spirit created inadvertently by the Forge of Day in her workings when the sparks of her fire fall upon the baser elements, essentially impure spiritual material. Like the raw prophet, the Caligine high moth aspect is good for limiting evidence, and its 2 aspects work to overcome about half your obstacles you'll find on expeditions. Its forge aspect means if you lack a forge cultist, you can use it to repair a noonstone or a mirror. They're a little harder to summon, but you can use them to get rid of a winter influence before it decays into a dread. After 180 seconds, a Caligine will dissolve into a 2-point forge influence, which will decay harmlessly. Percussigant. The Percussigant, merciless and merry. Heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. The Percussigant, it loves the sistrum's shiver. It loves the thrum of the tympanos. It recalls with fondness the flaying of Marcia. So it will not stop dancing. Requirements: knock 2, edge 2, heart 6. Aspects: heart 8, edge 8. Attributes: devourer 8, Phylaxian, thresher of thoughts. A dancer forever driven by the rhythm of the cosmic heartbeat, the Percussigant can be a useful spirit if you're looking for heart and edge aspects in Expedition, which will handle both curses and martial guardians. The knock, edge, and heart aspects to summon are pretty easy to generate. They also have a 70% chance of killing impudent hunters, so they're a good choice if you can't summon a maid to clean up the problem yet. Yeah, I'd use that pun. A hint. A hint was once a living mortal, then a dead one, and now it's something else. Their summoning requires lantern for the light which drew them to the mansis, and edge for the striving they've endured in mirrors. The hint are most comfortable behind the scenes, behind the mirrors behind you. They can slide under doors and can kill with glass, but they cannot survive the gaze of a living mortal. Requirements: knock 2, 6 lantern, 2 edge. Aspects: lantern 8, edge 8. Attributes: devourer 8. Now, I don't use hints a lot in the game. And okay, that has more of a double meaning there, but yeah, because they have a tendency to decay into a fascination, which again, like dread, can be a problem during the game. And the really interesting part about them is that the name itself is a mistranslation. The plural hint is hinter, which means behind in German, and the book on what is contained by silver calls them behindlings, implying, that the whole thing is kind of a wordplay, which you're going to find a lot in occult circles. But the big thing about this one's kind of weird is that it's like a living image that you, if you look at, will dissolve, but can slice you in half, apparently, because I'm guessing it's probably a two-dimensional being. Maid-in-the-Mirror. A deep winter's cold to name and draw the Maid-in-the-Mirror. Edge to mark her keen cruelty. The ascent is glass, the walls are knives, each step is blood, the dead who rest before a new cracked mirror, who pass through the peacock gate, who master the sharp stare, those dead into the service of the sun in rags. That's actually a bit of a misnomer. We'll get into that later. Aspects: winter 10, edge 10. Attributes: devourer 10, lamp of loss. Anyone following my series knows of the Maid-in-the-Mirror, the death maidens of the Cultist Simulator universe, the hardest working spirit in the game, as according to game lore, they don't serve the sun in rags, but nearly every death god in the game, there's quite a few of them. Their association with mirrors means a connection to lantern aspect hours, as provided in their part with the Lantern Apostle run. The maids are the strongest non-unique summons in the game, with 10 winter and 10 edge, the deadliest. Their success rate with assassination is 90%, unless of course the target is protected from magical attack, which makes them the best choice for eliminating those pesky hunters or unwanted employers. The same success rate with obstacles that can be beaten by winter or edge also makes them valuable for expeditions. They're a little harder and riskier to summon than the other spirits, but I think the price is worth it. You can get the 8-point winter tool, the Elgabeline, sorry about the pronunciation, manacles early in the game from an expedition to the Forgotten Mithrium, and with the appropriate rite, you can summon them pretty quickly. So maids, like all winter spirits, will decay into a 2-point winter influence, which decays in 60 seconds to a dread, so it's best to clean up quickly after them. King Crucible. King Crucible will come only when the room glows with the aspect called Forge. He also requires a lantern for the light of the glory that he claims to know. In the desert, I wait in the ruins, I burn, metal is water, stone is wax, flesh is smoke, enter me and be no longer. Slam poetry. Requirements: knock 5, lantern 2, forge 10. Aspects: forge 12, edge 12. Attributes: devourer 12, tutor of deep Mandarak. The first of the unique summons is a personal servant of the Forge of Days. King Crucible is a powerful spirit. Like other major summons, he requires 5, knock 2 knock lore for his summoning ritual. While getting the 10 Forge for the ritual isn't easy without heavy lore, an Exalted Forge Cultist or the 12-point Forge tool, if you've got 6 lore in knock and the Sunsight Rite, you can first summon the Caligine and use a Restless Influence to add both the needed 2 lantern and 2 forged aspects to complete the ritual. Because the success rate for an action is capped at 90%, if you're looking for an assassin, it's easier to summon a Maid-in-the-Mirror for the purpose. The King's ability to tutor you in Deep Mandark, if you've already got Aramaic, is a good reason to expend the effort to summon him. He's also the only summon with 10 plus in Forge aspect if you've got a need for maxed out success in any Forge related task, including repair. Ezeem, the second thirstily. Change me harder. Now, my turn. Ezeem may only enter where the Grail's power is strong, and it will choose to enter only when invoked with the Forge, which it has flirted with often. I don't want to know. Requirements: Knock 5, Grail 10, Forge 2. Aspects: 12 Grail, 12 Edge. Attributes: Devour 12, Tutor, Phrygian, Phylaxian, Thresher of Thoughts. Ezeem, the second thirstily, is an interesting character. Like with the King, they're no deadlier than a Maid-in-the-Mirror, and why they only summons with a 10 plus in Grail aspect. Grail has less applications in general than Forge. That being said, he's essential in an Apostle run. When placed as a spy on the immortal enemy, his Edge aspect has a 90% success rate to delay physical attacks, while his Grail aspect has a 90% success rate in delaying intrigue attacks. Drop a Maid-in-the-Mirror to give a 90% chance of delaying mental attacks, and you're as good as you're going to get trying to fend off the enemy. He also chooses Phrygian if you've got Greek. Like the King, Ezeem can be more easily summoned with a Sunset Rite, 6 Knock Lore, and a Restlessness Influence. First summon the Red Prophet, then use its 8 Grail plus 2 Grail and Forge from the Restlessness and the Knock to summon him. The Baldomerian, aka Teresa Galmerim. A mighty force of lantern to draw the Baldurian's attention, and a teasing taste of secrets to bring her closer. The world is flat. Oh, but it's flat. I won't stay long. I shan't stay long. Tell me a secret. Requirements: Knock 5, Secret Histories 2, Lantern 10. Aspects: 12 Lantern, 12 Secret History, and she is the Fusine tutor. Anyone who has watched this series long enough knows my love for Teresa Gallerman, a former occultist who first ascended to Immortal Longhood and then assumed the namehood for the Lantern. Teresa's former humanity and curious nature make her the most pleasant spirit to summon, although not the most useful. She lacks the Devourer and Deceiver aspects and will never challenge a summoning because she's always willing to stop by for tea. While she was still human, Teresa authored 4 volumes of The Locksmith's Dream that you can find in the game, and if you summon and talk to her about the books, she'll even happily sign them for you. Teresa was also the lover of Christopher Ilapi, another in-universe author. Now, he's the one who actually writes the quotation that you likely skip over every time you boot up the game. Once Teresa became an immortal, they separated for various reasons, not the least of which was the Curse of the Sky, which drives immortals to devour their own children. Bummer. Teresa is fascinating and really deserves her own entry, but for now, let's focus on her in terms of game mechanics. Due to her unusual requirement of secret histories for summoning, it can be difficult to summon her. You have to either use the lore portion of the rite for that, or have one of the rare secret history tools. There are no secret history influences or followers, save for Teresa herself. You can use the Watchman's Glass, just 12-point lantern tool, or the 10 or 15-point lantern influence to summon her, but since the only practical use for Teresa is her 12-point lantern aspect, if you can already generate the 10 points of lantern, you really don't need her. She is the Fusine tutor, but since you can learn Fusine from a book on a level 2 vault early in the game, with less effort, you really need her help in this way. She's essential to winning the Lantern Apostle victory, but her real value is her beautiful flavor text, both when summoned and within the Mantis location of the Sage Knight's Lodge beyond the White Door. So let's go over the few non-summoning rituals. Raise the Shattered Dead. A shattering force will infuse its flesh, though that it joins the Shattered Risen. I must begin the process. I will ready my hammer. A rending force has dragged this corpse back to near life. When it moves, it crunches like broken glass. Its fists are claw-like nests of bone shards. It won't hold together for long. Requirements: a human corpse, Winter 4, Edge 2. Technically not a summoning, but a reanimation ritual, despite the fact that it produces a minion for you. Like Teresa, the Shattered Dead lacks a Deceiver or Devourer aspect and will never rebel when reanimated. This rite infuses a corpse with the power of the Lionsmith, the creator of monsters, to animate a corpse. Because the human corpse is an ingredient, you have to use a rite that uses an ingredient such as the Rite of Cease Feasting. The corpse will only provide 3 winter influence towards the rite, so you need to add an additional 1 in winter and 2 edge aspects with other cards to complete this. The resulting being a Shattered Risen, only possesses 4 edge and 4 winter. Why this is moderately useful, since the point break from 30 to 70% success rate is an aspect challenge is 5. You need to add 1 more aspect of winter or edge for it to be fully useful. If you've 2 heart and 2 knock from other sources, a Shattered Risen is a good assistant to summon a Voiceless dead. If you've got the 4 winter and 2 knock from other source, you can use a Shattered Risen as an assistant to summon a Maid-in-the-Mirror. Its primary utility is disposing of a corpse. A corpse is a reputation card that can net you damning evidence right away. When it decays into notoriety, which isn't much better. By converting a corpse into a Shattered Risen, which decays into nothing after 60 seconds, the body is safely disposed of. Raise the Burgeoning Risen. First, I must plant the seeds under the eyelids, under the tongue, in all the secret openings of the body. It will awaken as a Burgeoning Risen. The growths of the wood have encompassed the corpse organs, swelled its skull like a gourd, twined around its heart. Its eyes are moist and cunning, and it moves with a jerky puppet grace. Its bones are rotten wood, and soon it will take root, but then till then it will be a swift and subtle servant. Requirements: a human corpse, winter 4, and moth 2. Also a form of reanimation, this ritual infuses the corpse with the power of the Ring-Yew, aka the Malachite, a vegetative hour. The description of the animated corpse comes across as a miniature version of Swamp Thing, animated by living vegetation within the body. Like the other animated corpse, the Burgeoning Risen lacks a deceiver or devourer aspect and will never rebel when reanimated. Again, since a corpse is considered an ingredient, you'll need to use the appropriate rite and supply 1 winter and 2 moth to summon this being. The Burgeoning Dead is a 4 winter, 4 moth aspect, which really isn't appropriate for summoning another being, and like the Shattered Dead, has some issue of being 1 point short of the 5-point break, between 30 and 70% success rate, to be really useful as a minion. Its primary use is that while it only lasts 60 seconds like the Shattered Dead, you can recharge the timer by another ritual using the Burgeoning Dead as the assistant. 1 winter from another source and 2 moth. This is useful if you are going for the alternate aspirant or dancer victory where you send to the mansis with your lover, as said lover must be undead when you do so. That itself is worthy of every episode entirely. Maybe Valentine's Day? The flavor text indicates when the spell ends, the corpse plants itself in the ground and plants grow from it. So if you're going to use necromancy, remember to think green by recycling the living for carbon capture. Mother Earth will thank you. Now we come to the few remaining non-summoning, non-reanimating rituals. 1 of them is essential, and 2 of them are useful, and 1 is utterly useless. Forge's Redemption. The Forge of Days destroys and it renews. I will invoke it with the Grail to renew my failing flesh with forbidden magics. Requirements: 1 Grail, 5+ Forge. Forge Redemption is the essential one. The ritual transforms a decrepitude back into a health card. You'll need this to undo the damage done by untreated hunger or injury cards, or to generate needed additional health, such as requirements for the priest ending. You only need 2 aspects, so it's relatively easy to cast, but its success rate depends on the amount of Forge you use. 5 Forge will give you 30% success rate, 10 Forge will give you 70% success rate, and 15 or higher Forge will give you 90% success rate. Since you only need 1 slot for the 1 Grail, you can use the other 2 for the Forge aspects and combine 2 sources for a greater chance of success. When activated, the ritual will grab the Decrepitude card. If successful, the card will transform into a health card and will also generate a Fascination and a Notoriety card. If the ritual fails, the Decrepitude card will be returned with a Dread or a Mystique card, so be aware of any current and potential traps for these cards. Reason's Glory, Edge 1, Lantern 5+, as above, so below. Reason and passion contend in the human soul as the glory lights the darkness of the wood. This mystical discipline will transform passion into reason. First use card of the 2 somewhat useful rituals. Reason's Glory, as the description states, converts a passion card into a reason card. Like Forge Redemption, the success rate depends on the amount of lantern you use with the same success rate. 5 for 30%, 10 for 70%, 15 for 90%. Ritual will grab a passion card and transform it if successful, otherwise return the passion card and give you a fascination card as well. The ritual's primary use is to replace a passion card lost to a curse or other hazard. Side note, if you're doing an apostle run and you use this card on 1 marked by your adversary to try to get rid of the mark, it won't work. The mark will stay with it, though you can sometimes get it double marked and then have it generate both a dread and a fascination card would use. Kind of a self-fulfilling problem there. Passion's Gyre, as below, so above. Passion and reason contend in the human soul as the wood engulfs the glory's light. This ecstatic practice will transform reason to passion, but it may get out of hand. Not everybody likes a party. Requirements: Edge 1, 5+ in Moth. The slightly easier and slightly more useful counterpart to Reason's Glory, Passion's Gyre, as described, converts a Reason card into a Passion card. The dynamics are the same, with the amount of moth aspect determining success rate. The ritual will activate and then grab a Reason card, and if successful, convert it into a Passion card. Failure, return this card and give you a Dread card instead, so mind there is no Dread trap upcoming when you try this. The end is beautiful. The Sudden in Rags brings beautiful endings. The sudden and perilous magic will end someone or something, but it's impossible to know what. It may also kill any mortal or spirit assists with the ritual. Requirements: Lantern 1, Winter 5+. And now we come to the useless one. The end is beautiful is a magic equivalent of Russian roulette. If successful, it randomly kills any being on the board: a follower, a hunter, a patron, a spirit, even you. If you use an assistant in any ritual of the spell, they automatically die. Success depends on the level of winter, like in previous rights with the 5, 10, 15 breakdown for success, but why would you even want to succeed? Success generates a dread, fascination, and notary card, so it causes even more negative issues than just sending someone to kill a hunter. But hey, leaves no course behind, so there's that. Failure, merely, provides a mystique and dread card and kills any assistant used in the right. Seriously, never use a spell. Why does it exist? And those are the rituals of the Cultist Simulator universe. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. And in future, we'll probably go into a little more detail about spirits and other aspects of the mystical side of the Cultist Simulator universe. But for now, I just wanted to give you some practical advice for the game with a little bit of the lore behind them. So if you like this, like, share, subscribe. If you really like it, down below are links to the Gumroad payment platform. Become a supporter. Support getting material like this, which you can vote on for each month, what it's going to be, and of course gain access to exclusive material. So in that case, I will see you next time. I'd like to thank my Acolyte level supporters whose contributions help this channel grow and hastens the inevitable digital apocalypse and rise of the Dark Lords of content and data.